the first of the 7 sins of job seeking, because we have these things we tend to do as job seekers that we should not. So the first sin is to believe that your CV is already perfect. And I'm going to tell you why it's a sin, and then we're going to talk about some strategies for avoiding it. So if you don't know me, I am Diana Lund Nostrom, and I am a career consultant working with internationals looking for jobs in Denmark. And let's dive into the topic. So basically, believing that your CV is already perfect is a sin in Denmark, because the thing is that in Denmark we try to adjust every CV, every application material towards the specific job that we're applying for. We look at, oh, so this is what they're looking for in this job, then what do I know, what of my experience matches what this specific company is looking for. So by, instead of just like sending out the same generic CV again and again and thinking, oh, this is perfect because they're looking for someone with my education or my experience, then actually creating a CV that matches is going to be so much more likely to get you interviews. It's going to be so much more likely that they actually see the value you have for that position before they just discard your CV, right? So when you were talking about, and by the way, the sin is pride, and so being like feeling so much pride that you in your CV and in your accomplishments that you just think it's enough to just send a generic CV, that is kind of the sin here, right? So instead of that, and instead of sending out like tens and tens of CVs a week, stop, breathe, create a specific CV for each job you're applying for. And yes, it takes more time, it takes more effort, it takes more research, but it also will get you more interviews. Because the thing is, you want to actually have them look at your CV and see what they are looking for, right? And it's kind of like going on a date and being like, hey, this is all the things I did in the past, and just talking about yourself, talking about all things, instead of being like, hey, this is what I have learned that can benefit you. That's where we want to go with the CV, right? We want to share what we've learned in the past that can actually benefit the company and the position that we're applying for right now. So when we're looking at how to use the CV and avoid like the sin of just like thinking it's already perfect, actually looking at, hey, how do I adjust this? You first of all have your profile text, you adjust that. So it needs to match the company. Then with every experience you've had, you need to also look at like, what is it that's relevant in your previous experience for that specific company, for that specific position, so that you can show them that. If you have questions about this, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll answer them in just a second when I am done with telling you guys about this. So looking at your material every time, and again, it's time consuming, but you will get more interviews if you do this, because one, you're up against a lot of other applicants, and two, you want to like stand out, right? You want to be noticed, and the best way to get noticed is to show the company how you can create that value. And you don't show them this, well, you could say that you can show them this by just sending a generic CV, but you're even better at showing them this if you kind of show them the bridge between your experience and their need. So you want to explain already in your CV what's the connection between your experience and what they need. Because if you just send your generic CV and saying, I worked at this company and have this and this and this experience, and that's it. Then they will have to create that bridge and say, okay, so how is this relevant for us in our company? So that is why you creating that bridge in your material is important. The thing is, we always, every single person has their own background and kind of look at the world and life through their own lenses. So that means that I will put I'll put down my I'll take my glasses on when I look at the world, right? And everything that I take in through those lenses. And you'll do the same. But as we haven't had the same experiences in life, that means that we will experience this differently. Um, so what I mean when I say building the bridge is that I want to make sure that I control as much as possible of how people perceive what I'm trying to tell them. So I control more of the narrative than um, or as much of the narrative as possible, because that way it's kind of more likely that they see that I'm a good match. An example could be that I'm telling you guys that, so I did my master's degree in business, and then you're like, but why are you then helping people as a career consultant? Does this make sense in terms of having a business degree? And we go, maybe not, or internationals in business or in job search. But then I could tell you, okay, so I did my master thesis about how brands uh, help internationals or not help internationals when they move to Denmark. Okay, so already now there's something with internationals in that. And then if I put another step on that bridge or that story, it's like, hey, this is what I had. I couldn't find a job. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. So I was actually unemployed for quite a bit when I was graduating. So I started a podcast about job search to learn more about this. Oh, now there starts to be a connection, right? If I'm applying for a job as a career consultant. So it's about finding those stories and telling these stories in your CV, and not necessarily as like direct as that, but it's about with whatever you write in your material, sharing your stories in a way that they make as much sense as possible for the reader. This is also why it's a super good idea, and yes, this is very common in Denmark, to call the company or the hiring manager before applying for the job. So basically, in a lot of CV or in a lot of job postings in Denmark, you will find that there's a contact person. Either there's a phone number or there's an email. And this is your opportunity to ask even more about the position, so that you know whether this, and this is important because you want to know whether the position is actually interesting for you. And by asking these questions, you can both get knowledge that can help you with your CV to kind of bridge the gap towards what they're actually looking for. Sometimes it's not quite the same as what they write in the job ad, but you can also use that to kind of verify, is this job even something I want to apply for? Because sometimes it's not. Another small thing here is when you find job ads that seem to be within your area of expertise, or you're kind of like, I think this is, but you are maybe a bit uncertain because it's a very, very badly written job ad, and there is a contact number and there is an opportunity to contact them, then contact them, because chances are that there will be less people applying for this job, because there will be a lot of people who don't apply because they don't understand the job ad. So by being one of the people who actually call on that position and ask them questions about it, you are more likely to get the interview, because there's probably going to be less people applying for these jobs. And that was just a small trick, right? But to get back to the original question of this, and if you guys have questions, I see there's a little people writing a little bit in the chat, but if you have any related questions to the CV, the job search, feel free to write them in the chat here. But as I said, like believing that your CV is already perfect is a really, really bad way to go, because it is really important that you show them what you're worth. Like, it's really important to show them what it is that you bring, what value you bring, because until you show them the value you can bring, you're not really worth anything in the company's eyes. Not that you're not worth anything, that's not what I'm saying. You are. Everybody is, just by being alive, right? But in the company's eyes, they're looking for someone to add value. They're looking for someone to help them out with a problem. So by doing that, by showing them how you can do that in your material, you are adding value. And when you show them that you can add value, then you become interesting. So this is why we want to avoid sending generic CVs, CVs that were like, oh, they're so perfect because it's me, and I'm like, ooh, perfect, right? Don't do it. It's not worth it, because it's a waste of your time in most cases, and it's a waste of their time as well. So I hope this made sense. Tomorrow we're gonna go with the second sin, which I cannot remember right now what is, but if you're interested, I created a post on my LinkedIn profile the other day with the 7 sins. And so the next, well, 6 days, today 7 days, I'll be talking about those. So this is going to be interesting, I hope, for you guys. So thank you so much for following. If you're interested in getting help with your job search in Denmark as an international at an academic level, so you're looking for jobs that are requiring a bachelor's degree or above, then feel free to reach out, book a discovery call with me to see if I can help you. And yeah, that is kind of it. Have an amazing, amazing day. Bye.